So I guess what are your thoughts on some of the scaling issues? And if you had to predict how the trajectory of the phone goes from launch to maybe the first to second year in terms of user growth, like where's your head at with everything there?
Yeah, I love this question because the conversation, this came up repeatedly when the phone announcement came out. And, it may be just because I'm old, but I've seen this movie before. And there's so many ways of kind of attacking this point. One, if you look at, let me back up. Most people will see the announcement of something like the Solana phone and be like, oh, it'll never scale. Oh, you're competing with Apple. Oh, there's a massive CapEx investment. Oh, how are you going to go to market and compete? All of that misses the point. And let me explain why. So today, how do we go about getting more users onto Web3 and crypto? Well, it's primarily through a desktop browser or and some kind of potentially kludgy experience with a wallet or a number of wallets, right? Now, and I'm not saying that we have kind of saturated that go-to-market attempt, but it's the only way right now for the most part, right? Unless somebody's like spinning up an Ethereum node or mining Bitcoin or something, right? Which very few people are going to do. So that raises the question, well, how do we get more people into crypto and Web3? And a phone is by far a very, very clear wedge into breaking open a new, user base, if you will. The thing is that when people only focus on the first order effects of something like a Solana phone, they're missing the bigger, longer term strategy here. So everybody says it'll never scale. Everybody says it's too CapEx expensive, et cetera, et cetera. Well, let me run a couple of different scenarios that have happened in the past with companies I think everybody's familiar with. So Amazon, burgeoning startup, right? They launched a phone. I don't know if folks listening remember this, but it was called the Fire Phone, Amazon Fire Phone. And it was ridiculed by every analyst and every pundit and every Apple fanboy out there. And was the Fire Phone a success from the first order effect? Well, the answer is no, because no one uses it. It's not around really anymore, right? But what were the second order effects of that? The second order effects that most people don't realize is that the Fire Phone actually helped optimize a very successful service that Amazon has called Alexa. So if you've ever used Amazon Alexa, the Fire Phone had a big, part of that service's success. And then Alexa ultimately led to the Echo, which is the speaker that people install in their homes, and they can tell, Amazon, order me more paper towels or whatever, right? That is a massively successful service for Amazon, but it started primarily with the launch of this phone. Why? Well, one, they had to learn how they were going to build hardware. They have to understand that whole end-to-end process, which Amazon can certainly figure out. Two, there's the logistics behind it. Three, there's a software service and infrastructure components, which they can do with AWS and their engineering staff, right? Four, it's a mobile device. Now, granted, the Echo speaker isn't mobile per se. It doesn't move around, but it is a peripheral different than, say, a desktop or laptop computer, right? So the learnings that they got from something like the Fire Phone led them to Alexa and the Echo speaker. Now, again, I want to be clear here. That wasn't the only reason that Alexa and the Echo speaker were successful. I'm saying it had a lot to do with the impact and influence on it. So first order effect, failure. Second order effects, massively successful, right? Now let's take the counterexample of this. Google launched their first Android phone, and I'm dating myself here, called the G1. And I had it because I started building a bunch of Android apps in the earliest days, which was super painful to do. That phone was technically a success. Google still has multiple phones, right? They release a new phone seemingly every year or every 18 months or something like that. There's a huge Android ecosystem. They have about 76% global market share of mobile phones today that run Android. Of course, they're not all Google phones, But they were successful with that. But why was Google launching a phone? Google is not a hardware company. Apple is a hardware company, and it shows in their margins, right? Google is a software company. So what does the phone enable? The phone enables people to conduct mobile search, right? Google spends billions of dollars every year to be the default search option on the iPhone, a competitive phone to Google's phones, right? Why? Because search is their core business. And if they can ensure that this explosion that was due to happen, I think the G1 came out in like 2008 or 2009. They were forecasting an explosion of these smart, phones. And guess what? People are going to search on them. Well, we better get in the space to understand how we can optimize the user experience and our backend services for mobile and even contextually related search. So for example, if you search for stuff on your mobile phone, it will utilize your GPS coordinates, right? It will utilize certain contextual features like what time of day it is, or what time zone you're in, or what, I mentioned the GPS, what city you're in, what neighborhood you're in, right? This isn't possible on a desktop computer because it doesn't move around, right? So the point is that the phone, yes, the G1 was a quote unquote success from the first order effect, but it was also massively successful for the second order effects, which was not only mobile search, but also mobile ads, and then all the ads that Google is going to serve up, whether it's through the browser, through search, or through apps themselves. So the reason I bring this up is that it is so patently cliche for folks on crypto Twitter to be like, Solana phone, it's going to be a failure. No one's going to use it, right? Like, of course people are going to say that. And by the way, if people weren't saying that, man, I would be really concerned because then it's almost guaranteed to be a failure, right? So I would look at it in two ways. One, could the Solana phone be successful at the first order effect? Absolutely, it could. Is it a tall order? Absolutely, right? Absolutely, it is. But two, the second order effects here are that we can have the potential for people to utilize the device that they use every single day, more than they probably look at anything else is their mobile phone, as a means to getting people into crypto and Web3. Will it be successful? We do not know. However, the fact that Anatoly and Raj are taking this incredibly ambitious approach to try it suggests to me that Solana has a much longer thesis that they're playing out about how they want to engage normal people, consumers, non-technical, non-crypto native people to start to get into cryptography and Web3.